Commander Jake Sullivan stood on the bridge of his ship and looked out at the stars. The UES Titan's Fury was one of only 12 human warships patrolling the edge of human space. At least, that's what everyone in the galaxy thought. Jake pressed a button on his control panel. "Bridge to engine room, how are we doing down there, Chief?" "All systems running smooth, Commander," came the reply from Chief Engineer Bobby Martinez. "This old girl purrs like a kitten." Jake smiled. The aliens who visited Earth always laughed when they saw ships like the Titan's Fury. They called them primitive and weak. The bug-like HFY would click their mandibles and make jokes. The crystal beings called Shardani would flash colors that meant they were amused. Even the slug-like gastropods would wiggle their eye stalks in what passed for laughter among their kind. But Jake knew something they didn't. Something big. 3,000 light-years away, on the alien world of Zentara Prime, Ambassador Lisa Carter sat in a massive hall filled with representatives from 17 different alien species. The Grand Assembly was in session, and they were talking about the human problem again. "The humans are getting too bold," clicked Ambassador Zixtha of the HFY. His insect-like body twitched as he spoke. "They think they can be equals with us. It's quite funny, really." The Shardani representative, a tall crystal being named Quartzivel, flashed bright yellow. "My scans show they have maybe 50 warships, total. Hardly worth our concern." Lisa Carter kept her face calm, but inside she was angry. She had been Earth's ambassador for 5 years now, and every day brought the same insults. The aliens treated humans like children who had just learned to walk among the stars. The worst was Blockstar the Vast, the gastropod chancellor. His slug-like body was as big as a small car, and slime dripped from his mouth when he spoke. "Humans are barely worth the air they breathe," he gurgled. "Perhaps we should find better uses for their worlds." Lisa wanted to tell them the truth. She wanted to see their faces when they learned what humanity really had hidden in the dark spaces between the stars. But she had orders to stay quiet. For now. On the human colony world of New Denver, Farmer Pete Williams was loading grain onto a transport ship when the attack came. The sky filled with fire as Korth Empire warships appeared above the settlement. The Korth were tall, gray-skinned aliens with 4 arms and black eyes. They were known throughout the galaxy as slave traders and conquerors. "Run!" Pete shouted, to his wife Mary and their 2 children. But there was nowhere to go. Korth soldiers landed in the fields around their farm. Within hours, 50,000 human colonists were in chains. The news reached Earth 3 days later. President Martin Cross sat in his office reading the reports. The Korth had claimed New Denver as their own. They said humans were unfit to govern themselves and needed proper guidance. The Galactic Coalition's response came quickly. They offered their thoughts and concerns but would take no action. Some species even suggested that maybe the Korth had a point about human weakness. President Cross was a former soldier. He had fought in the resource wars on Earth before humanity reached the stars. He knew what real war looked like. He also knew what the aliens didn't. He activated a secure communication channel. "This is Cross. Begin Operation Thunderstorm." Deep in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, Dr. Ryan Parker watched his screens light up with activity. For 30 years, he had overseen the most secret project in human history. While the aliens thought humans were building farms and factories, they were actually building something much more impressive. "All stations report ready, Doctor," said his assistant Jenny Walsh. 700,000 vessels standing by. Dr. Parker nodded. The number still amazed him. 700,000 warships hidden in asteroid bases, underground facilities on airless moons, and in the dark space between star systems. Each ship was more advanced than anything the aliens had ever built. Humanity had learned from every alien technology they could study, then made it better. "Send the signal to all fleet commanders," Dr. Parker ordered. "It's time to show the galaxy what humans can really do." On Zentara Prime, Lisa Carter was leaving the assembly hall when alarms started ringing. She saw alien officials running in panic, speaking rapidly into communication devices. Something had them scared. Ambassador Zixtha ran past her, his insect, legs clicking on the floor. Impossible, he was saying. The sensors must be wrong. Humans can't have that many ships. Lisa smiled for the first time in months. She walked calmly to her quarters and activated her secure transmitter. This is Ambassador Carter to Earth Command. I'm ready to deliver our message to the Coalition. Back on the Titan's Fury, Commander Sullivan received new orders. All ships. This is Fleet Command. You are no longer alone out there. Check your long-range sensors. Jake looked at his scanner and felt his heart race. Thousands of green dots were appearing on his screen. Human warships were decloaking all around him. Ships he had never seen before. Bigger and more powerful than anything in the human fleet he knew about. My God, whispered Chief Martinez over the comm. How many ships do we have? Jake opened the fleet communication channel and heard hundreds of voices checking in. Ship after ship reported ready for combat. The names were strange to him. UES Sovereign, UES Destiny, UES Iron Will, UES Stormbringer. Ships that had been built in secret while the galaxy thought humans were weak. Admiral Helen Brooks's voice came over the main channel. All vessels, this is Fleet Command. For too long, our people have been treated as lesser beings. Today, that ends. We go to free our brothers and sisters on New Denver. We go to show the galaxy that humanity will not be pushed around anymore. On New Denver, the Korth guards were enjoying their victory when their scanners detected something impossible. Thousands of human warships were approaching the system. General Korthtal, the invasion commander, stared at his screens in disbelief. This must be an error, he said to his aide. Humans have no fleet this size. But the ships kept coming. More than the Korth had ever seen in one place. More than any species in the galaxy possessed. As the massive human fleet entered the New Denver system, Korthtal realized his people had made a terrible mistake. Across the galaxy, alien governments were receiving the same impossible reports. Human warships were appearing everywhere. Species that had never heard of Earth were suddenly tracking thousands of unknown vessels moving through their space. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity had been hiding its true strength for decades. The sleeping giant had awakened. And it was not happy. President Cross stood before the Global Congress as representatives from every human world watched. His words were broadcast to every corner of human space and secretly transmitted to alien worlds across the galaxy. My fellow humans, he began, for 50 years we have been underestimated. We have been mocked, dismissed, and attacked. Today, that changes. Today, the galaxy learns what we are truly capable of. Today, we take our rightful place among the stars. In the darkness of space, 700,000 human warships began to move. Admiral Helen Brooks stood on the bridge of her flagship, the UES Sovereign, and watched the greatest military movement in galactic history unfold before her eyes. All around her ship, thousands of human vessels appeared from their hiding places, like ghosts becoming solid. Admiral, all fleet groups report ready, said Captain Roy Henderson from his position at the communications station. The first battle fleet is fully deployed. Helen nodded. She had waited 30 years for this moment, 30 years of watching aliens treat her people like servants and weaklings. Now they would see what humans could really do when pushed too far. Send the word to all commanders, she ordered. Operation Thunderstorm is now active. Show them what we've built in the dark. Across human space, the same scene was playing out in system after system. Hidden shipyards in the cold Kuiper Belt began releasing vessels that had never seen sunlight. Massive construction facilities orbiting the Starwolf 359 opened their doors and let centuries of secret work fly free into space. Captain Pete Williams, commanding the heavy cruiser UES Retribution, watched his scanner in amazement as more ships kept appearing. I knew we had more than the aliens thought, he said to his crew. But this is incredible. His weapons officer, Lieutenant Amy Stone, checked her displays. Sir, I'm reading advanced plasma cannons, quantum torpedoes, and shield systems I've never seen before. These new ships make our old vessels look like toys. Pete smiled grimly. That's the point, Lieutenant. We've been learning from every alien technology we could get our hands on, then making it better. Much better. On the Korth homeworld of Caraxus, General Vexmore was having the worst day of his long military career. His intelligence officers kept bringing him reports that made no sense. "Sir, our deep space sensors are detecting massive fleet movements throughout human territory," reported his aide, a younger Korth named Talvin. "The numbers keep growing." "How many ships?" Vexmore demanded. "At last count, over 50,000 and still rising, sir." Vexmore felt his four hearts skip a beat. The Korth Empire's entire military had only 12,000 vessels. How could the primitive humans have more ships than the greatest military power in their sector? "Check the sensors again," he ordered. "This has to be some kind of mistake." Meanwhile, on Zentara Prime, the Galactic Coalition Assembly was in complete chaos. Ambassador Lisa Carter sat calmly in her seat, while alien representatives ran around screaming at each other in dozens of different languages. Ambassador Zixtha of the Vex High was clicking his mandibles so fast they sounded like machine gun fire. "This is impossible. Our intelligence said humans had maybe 100 warships at most." The crystalline Shardani representative, Quartzville, was flashing angry red colors. "My people's sensors are detecting human vessels in systems we didn't even know they had reached. How did they hide so many ships?" Blockster the Vast, the slug-like gastropod chancellor, was leaving a trail of nervous slime as he slithered around the chamber. 700,000 ships, he gurgled in panic. "The reports say 700,000 human warships." "Lisa." Carter stood up slowly and activated her voice amplifier. The entire assembly fell silent as her words echoed through the massive hall. "Honored representatives," she began, her voice steady and calm. "For 5 years I have sat in this chamber and listened to your jokes about human weakness. You have called us primitive, backward, and worthless. You have suggested we should be slaves or servants to your superior civilizations." The silence in the room was so complete that Lisa could hear the breathing of species that actually breathed air. "Today, you learn the truth," she continued. "Humans are not weak. We are not primitive. We have simply been waiting for the right moment to show you what we are capable of. That moment has arrived." Dr. Ryan Parker was no longer hiding in an asteroid base. He was now aboard the massive command ship, UES Victory, coordinating the movement of the largest fleet in galactic history. Around him, dozens of human officers worked at control stations that managed groups of thousands of ships each. "Doctor, the 7th Fleet reports all vessels deployed and ready," announced Commander Carl Morris, the fleet's tactical officer. "The Korth forces at New Denver are completely surrounded." Dr. Parker looked at the massive display screen showing the new Denver system. Red dots representing Korth ships were clustered around the planet like insects around a light. Green dots representing human vessels surrounded them in perfect formation. "Send a message to the Korth commander," Dr. Parker ordered. "Tell him he has 1 hour to surrender and release all human prisoners. If he refuses, we will show him why attacking humans was the worst mistake his species ever made." Back on the Titan's Fury, Commander Jake Sullivan was getting used to having company. His small patrol ship was now part of a battle group containing over 200 vessels, each one more advanced than anything he had ever imagined. "Commander, we're receiving tactical data from the fleet network," reported Chief Martinez. "These new ships have weapons that can crack planets and shields that could stop a supernova. How did we build all this without anyone knowing?" Jake studied the technical specifications appearing on his screen. Each human vessel was faster, stronger, and more heavily armed than the best ships the aliens possessed. More importantly, they were all connected by a communication network that let them fight as one massive organism instead of individual ships. "We've been busy while the galaxy thought we were farming and mining," Jake replied. "Turns out humans are pretty good at keeping secrets when we need to." On New Denver, the human colonists in the Korth prison camps heard a sound they had never expected to hear again. The roar of human engines filled the sky as rescue shuttles began landing outside the prison walls. Farmer Pete Williams, the same man who had been captured during the invasion, watched through his cell window as Korth guards ran in panic. "Mary, look at this," he called to his wife. "Those are human ships, hundreds of them." The Korth camp commander, a brutal officer named Graltex, tried to contact his fleet for help. Instead of his own ships answering, a human voice came through his communicator. "This is Admiral Helen Brooks of the Human Defense Force," the voice said calmly. You are completely surrounded by superior forces. Release all prisoners immediately and prepare to surrender your vessels. You have 30 minutes to comply. Graltex looked at his tactical display and felt his blood turn cold. His small garrison, fleet of 50 ships, was surrounded by over 3,000 human warships. Ships that his sensors said were more advanced than anything in the Korth military. "This is impossible," he whispered. Across the galaxy, the same scene was playing out on 100 different worlds. Pirates who had terrorized trade routes for decades found themselves facing human battle groups that appeared out of nowhere. Slave traders discovered their hidden bases surrounded by vessels they couldn't even damage with their weapons. The most feared criminal organization in the galaxy, the Shadow Syndicate, sent an emergency message to all their agents. Avoid all contact with human forces. Repeat, avoid all contact. They are not what we thought they were. Species that had considered themselves the masters of galactic civilization were receiving reports that changed everything they thought they knew about the balance of power. The ethereal collective, ancient beings who had ruled through psychic power for thousands of years, were detecting mental patterns from human crews that suggested a level of coordination and purpose they had never encountered. Lord Zixthera, the most powerful ethereal, sent a telepathic message to his council. The humans are not individuals operating separately. They think and act as one vast mind. This makes them more dangerous than any force we have ever faced. President Martin Cross stood in the Situation Room deep beneath the capital city of New Geneva on Earth. Around him, screens showed the positions of human fleets across the galaxy. For the first time in human history, his species was not the underdog. "Mr. President," said Admiral Morris through the communication system, "all fleets report ready for Phase 2 of the operation. The galaxy is about to learn that attacking humans has consequences." Cross nodded. "Send the word to all commanders. Begin liberation operations. It's time to clean up this galaxy." In the darkness of space, 700,000 human warships began to move with purpose. The galaxy was about to discover that humanity had been preparing for this moment for decades, and they were very, very good at war. The Battle of New Denver began at exactly 0800 Galactic Standard Time and ended 14 hours later. It became the most studied military action in galactic history, not because it lasted long, but because of how completely the human forces dominated their enemies. General Pete Williams stood on the bridge of the assault carrier UES Stormbringer and watched 3,000 human warships move into perfect attack formation. Across from them, the Korth Third Armada tried to form a defensive line around New Denver. The Korth had 500 ships, all of them considered among the most dangerous vessels in the galaxy. "All fighter squadrons, launch when ready, General," Williams ordered. "Show them how humans fight." Lieutenant Colonel Amy Stone led the first wave of human fighters from her command ship. Behind her flew 1,000 small attack craft, each one faster and more maneuverable than anything the Korth had ever faced. The human fighters moved like a school of fish, turning and diving in perfect coordination. "This is gold leader to all squadrons," Amy transmitted. "Target their weapon systems first. We want prisoners, not corpses." The Korth defensive line collapsed in minutes. Their ships, designed for fighting other alien races, could not handle the speed and precision of human tactics. Where the Korth expected individual ship battles, the humans fought as one massive organism. Captain Nick Parker, commanding the heavy cruiser UES Iron Will, watched his weapons destroy a Korth battleship with a single shot. "Target the next vessel," he ordered his gunner. "Make sure their escape pods can launch before we fire." The Korth commander, Admiral Thexval, tried desperately to coordinate his fleet's defense. "All ships concentrate fire on their flagship," he ordered. But the humans had no single flagship to target. Every ship in their fleet was connected to the others through quantum communication networks. Destroying one ship only made the others fight harder. "Sir, our weapons are having no effect on their shields," reported Thexval's tactical officer. "Their technology is decades ahead of ours." Admiral Thexval watched his sensors as human ships surrounded his forces from every direction. "Send a surrender signal," he ordered quietly. "This battle is over." On the surface of New Denver, The human colonists heard the sound of Korth weapons falling silent. Prison camp commander Graltex stood in the middle of the compound as human. Soldiers surrounded him. Sergeant Tony Martinez, leading the rescue team, approached the Korth officer with his weapon lowered. "You have a choice," he said calmly. "You can surrender peacefully and be treated according to galactic law, or you can resist and face the consequences." Graltex looked at the human soldiers around him. They were calm, professional, and completely confident. Behind them, the sky was filled with human ships. "I surrender," he said, dropping his weapons. Within hours, all 50,000 human prisoners were free. Medical teams from the human fleet treated the injured while transport ships prepared to take the colonists to safety. The Korth soldiers, who had surrendered, were placed in comfortable detention facilities aboard human vessels. News of the human victory spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. On 100 worlds, alien governments held emergency meetings as they tried to understand what had happened. On the crystalline world of Shardvel Prime, the Shardani High Council gathered around their central crystal communication array. The council members flashed nervous colors as they discussed the implications of human military superiority. "Their technology is beyond anything we possess," pulsed Councillor Prismara. "Our best scientists estimate they are at least 50 years ahead of our most advanced systems." "How did they hide such capabilities for so long?" flashed another council member. "Our intelligence networks found no trace of such development." On Zentara Prime, Ambassador Lisa Carter found herself in a very different position than she had been just days before. The same alien representatives who had mocked humanity now requested urgent meetings with her. Ambassador Zixtha of the Vexhai approached her, with his insect head lowered in what passed for humility among his species. "Ambassador Carter, my government wishes to discuss improved relations between our peoples." Lisa smiled politely. "I will be happy to schedule a meeting, Ambassador. Perhaps we can discuss how the Vexhai plan to compensate the human colonies your pirates have attacked over the past decade." The insect alien's mandibles clicked nervously. That was not official Vexhai policy. Those were rogue elements acting, without authorization. "Of course they were," Lisa replied. "I'm sure the families of the victims will be very interested to hear that explanation." Admiral Helen Brooks, coordinating operations from the UES Sovereign, received reports from human fleets across the galaxy. The news was better than she had dared hope. "Admiral, Task Force 7 has eliminated the pirate base at Narion's Edge," reported her communications officer. "Task Force 12 has liberated 3 slave colonies in the Outer Rim. Task Force 20 has destroyed the Shadow Syndicate's main headquarters." Helen studied the tactical display showing human fleet positions across known space. Red markers indicated threats that had been eliminated. Green markers showed colonies that had been liberated. Blue markers represented trade routes that were now safe for the first time in decades. "Send a message to all fleet commanders," she ordered. "Phase 3 is approved. Begin systematic elimination of all criminal organizations in your sectors." The decision to target pirates and slavers instead of conquering alien worlds surprised many observers. Military analysts from dozens of species studied human tactics and found them completely unlike any previous galactic conflicts. Dr. Ellen Price, the human scientist now working aboard the exploration vessel UES Horizon Seeker, explained the strategy to a group of alien researchers who had requested permission to study human methods. "We're not interested in ruling the galaxy," she told them. "We're interested in making it a better place for everyone to live. That means getting rid of the criminals and pirates that make life miserable for peaceful people." The alien scientists, representing 12 different species, listened with amazement as Dr. Price described human long-term planning. "Your people planned this for decades," observed Zethkai, a reptilian researcher from the Scaled Collective. "You built the largest fleet in galactic history, but you use it to fight criminals instead of conquering planets." "Conquering planets is easy," Dr. Price replied. "Building a civilization that lasts is much harder. We're thinking about what kind of galaxy we want our children to inherit." On the Korth homeworld of Caraxus, General Vexmore received the news of his species' military defeat with surprising calm. He had been a soldier long enough to recognize when his enemy was superior in every way that mattered. "Send a message to the human fleet," he ordered his communications officer. "Tell them the Korth Empire is ready to discuss surrender terms." The human response came within hours. Instead of the harsh demands Vexmore expected, the human terms were surprisingly reasonable. The Korth would release all slaves, pay compensation to their victims, and allow human observers to ensure they followed galactic law. In return, the Korth Empire would be allowed to continue existing as an independent government. "They could have destroyed us completely," Vexmore told his council. "Instead, they offer us a chance to redeem ourselves. Perhaps we underestimated more than just their military power." President Martin Cross addressed the people of Earth from his office in New Geneva. His speech was broadcast across human space and transmitted to alien worlds throughout the galaxy. "My fellow humans," he began, "today we have shown the galaxy that we will not tolerate attacks on our people or our colonies. But we have also shown that we use our strength wisely. We fight criminals and pirates, not innocent civilians. We free slaves, not create them. We build peace, not destroy it." The speech was translated into hundreds of alien languages and broadcast on worlds where humans had never been welcome before. For the first time, many alien civilians heard humans speak for themselves instead of through the filter of their own government's propaganda. Captain Roy Henderson, patrolling the trade routes near the galactic core, intercepted communications between merchant ships from different species. The conversations revealed how quickly attitudes toward humanity were changing. "The human patrols have eliminated the Bloodclaw pirates," one merchant was saying. "For the first time in 20 years, I can travel the Centaurus route without armed escorts. My cargo holds are full because the trade routes are safe," another replied. "Whatever else you think about humans, they know how to fight the right enemies." As the news of human military success spread throughout the galaxy, one fact became clear to every species, government, and organization. The balance of power had shifted forever. Humanity was no longer the weak newcomer that could be ignored or exploited. They were the new guardians of galactic civilization, and they took that responsibility very seriously indeed. 6 months after the Great Deployment began, the galaxy had become a very different place. Admiral Jake Sullivan, now promoted from his small patrol ship to command the Frontier Defense Corps, stood on the bridge of his new flagship and watched trade ships move safely through space that had been pirate territory just months before. "Admiral, we have 17 merchant convoys requesting escort through the Nebular Passage," reported his operations officer, Lieutenant Karen Walsh. 6 months ago, no one dared travel that route at all. Jake nodded as he studied the display screen. Green dots representing human patrol ships were scattered across dozens of star systems. Each one protected trade routes that connected alien worlds in ways that had been impossible for centuries. "Assign the 3rd Squadron to escort duty," he ordered. "And remind Captain Davis that merchants pay taxes to their home governments, not to us. We protect them for free." The economic changes were as dramatic as the military ones. On the industrial world of Mechanos Prime, CEO Jennifer Walsh oversaw the construction of new factories that combined human technology with alien manufacturing techniques. The results were impressive. "Our new power systems are 3 times more efficient than anything previously available," she explained to a group of alien investors. "The medical equipment we're producing can cure diseases that were considered hopeless just a year ago." The alien business people listening to her presentation came from a dozen different species. The Vexhi representative, a insect-like being named Clickstar, clicked his approval. "Your people's technology is remarkable. My government would like to purchase manufacturing rights for our home systems." "We prefer partnership agreements to simple sales," Jennifer replied. "We provide the technology, you provide the manufacturing expertise, and we both profit from the results." The Korth Empire, facing complete military collapse after losing their entire Third Armada, formally surrendered to human forces on a cold Tuesday morning. The ceremony took place aboard the UES Destiny, with representatives from across the galaxy watching through quantum communication links. Colonel Dan Miller, now serving as military governor of former Korth territories, read the surrender terms to General Vexmore and his remaining officers. "The Korth Empire agrees to release all slaves, pay compensation to victims of previous raids, and allow human oversight of your military forces for a period of 10 years. General Vexmore signed the documents with all four of his hands. "We accept these terms," he said quietly. "We also request human assistance in rebuilding our damaged worlds." The request surprised many observers, but Colonel Miller had been expecting it. "Human engineering teams are already standing by," he told the Korth general. "We'll have your infrastructure repaired within 6 months. Your people will have jobs, food, and medical care. All we ask in return is that you follow galactic law." The speed of human reconstruction efforts impressed even their former enemies. Korth worlds that had been devastated by decades of military spending were transformed into thriving colonies within months. Human medical teams cured diseases that had plagued the Korth for generations. Human agricultural specialists increased food production by hundreds of %. On Zentara Prime, the Galactic Coalition Assembly was preparing to vote on a new structure for galactic government. Ambassador Lisa Carter sat in her chair and watched as species that had dominated galactic politics for millennia prepared to accept human leadership. "The proposal before us is simple," announced Chancellor Blockstar the Vast, his slug-like body no longer dripping nervous slime. "We establish a new Galactic Defense Council with Earth holding the primary seat. Human forces will be responsible for maintaining peace across all member territories." The vote was unanimous. Even species that had initially opposed human expansion now recognized that humanity offered something no previous galactic power had provided: security without conquest, strength without oppression. The most significant change came from an unexpected discovery. Dr. Ellen Price, leading a joint scientific expedition protected by human warships, announced findings that would reshape everything the galaxy thought it knew about its own history. "We have discovered ruins on the galactic edge that predate any known civilization by millions of years," she explained to the assembled scientists representing 43 different species. "The technology we're finding suggests that an advanced race once controlled this entire galaxy before mysteriously disappearing." The archaeological team, supplied by human logistics networks and protected by human military forces, had uncovered evidence of ancient battles fought on a scale that made current conflicts look like small disagreements between neighbors. Dr. Brian Foster, the human archaeologist leading the excavation, studied the alien symbols carved into metal that should have decayed millions of years ago. "Whatever happened to this previous civilization, it wasn't natural. These ruins show signs of a massive war fought against an enemy that came from outside the galaxy entirely." The discovery sent shockwaves through every government in known space. If an advanced civilization that had once controlled the entire galaxy could be destroyed by outside forces, what did that mean for current galactic security? Admiral Helen Brooks, now serving as Supreme Commander of the Galactic Defense Force, studied the reports from Dr. Price's expedition with growing concern. The joint military organization she commanded included ships and personnel from dozens of species, but it was still dominated by human leadership and technology. "The evidence suggests this ancient enemy might still exist," she told the emergency session of the Defense Council. "Dr. Price's team has detected energy signatures coming from the void between galaxies. Something out there is still active." President Martin Cross, now serving his second term and dealing with challenges he had never imagined, addressed the combined leadership of 47 different species through the quantum communication network. "We face a threat that destroyed a civilization far more advanced than any of us," he told them. "This is not a human problem, or a Korth problem, or a Vex-High problem. This is a galactic survival issue. We must work together if we want our children to have a future." The response was immediate and overwhelming. Species that had been enemies for thousands of years began sharing technology and resources. The ethereal collective, ancient beings who had avoided contact with younger races for millennia, offered their psychic abilities to help detect threats. From deep space, Lord Zix Thera, the most powerful ethereal, communicated directly with human leaders for the first time. "Your species has achieved something we thought impossible," his telepathic voice echoed in the minds of the human command staff. "You have united the galaxy through strength tempered by wisdom. We pledge our full support to this alliance." Commander Kate Anderson, representing the new generation of human officers who had grown up during the galactic transformation, prepared her crew aboard the newest human vessel ever constructed. The UES Eternal Vigilance was more than just a warship. It was a mobile headquarters designed to coordinate the defense of the entire galaxy. Around her, the bridge crew included representatives from 18 different species, all working together, under human leadership. The Vex High Navigation Officer worked alongside the Shardani Communications Specialist. The Korth Tactical Officer shared data with the Gastropod Engineering Chief. Commander, we're receiving long-range sensor data from the Deep Space Reconnaissance Force, reported Lieutenant Sam Johnson, the human officer coordinating fleet communications. Admiral Morris reports detecting artificial signals from the void between galaxies. Kate studied the data flowing across her screens. The signals were faint but clearly artificial. Something was out there in the darkness between galaxies, and it was sending messages toward known space. Alert all fleet commands, she ordered. Unknown contact detected beyond galactic edge. All defensive positions are to be maintained until further notice. The 700,000 human warships that had once brought terror to those who threatened humanity now formed the backbone of a galactic defense network that protected dozens of species across thousands of star systems. The aliens who had once mocked human weakness now looked to human leadership for protection against threats from the unknown darkness. Earth, once considered a backwater world suitable only for farming and mining, had become the beating heart of galactic civilization. The species that had dismissed humanity as primitive now sent their best students to human universities and their finest officers to train with human military forces. The galaxy had learned that underestimating humanity was a dangerous mistake. Now they were about to discover whether the combined strength of all galactic civilization would be enough to face whatever was coming from the dark spaces between the stars. 2 years after the Great Deployment, the galaxy had settled into a peace that no living being could remember experiencing before. Admiral Helen Brooks, now serving as Supreme Commander of the Galactic Defense Force, stood in the command center of the massive space station Unity 1 and watched displays showing the positions of Allied fleets across the galaxy. Admiral, all sectors report green status, announced Captain Lisa Reynolds from her position at the main communications console. Trade is flowing freely, piracy incidents are down 97%, and we haven't had a major conflict between member species in 18 months. Helen smiled as she studied the peaceful display. The 700,000 human warships had been divided into defensive fleets, exploration groups, and rapid response teams. Each group worked alongside vessels and crews from dozens of alien species, all united under the banner of galactic security. Any word from Dr. Price's expedition? Helen asked. The Horizon Seeker reports they've found another ancient site, Lisa replied. This one shows evidence of the same external threat that destroyed the previous galactic civilization. Dr. Price believes they're getting close to understanding what happened. On the galactic rim, Dr. Ellen Price stood inside a massive alien structure that had been built millions of years ago. The walls were covered with symbols and images that told the story of a galaxy under attack. Around her, archaeologists from 20 different species worked together to decode the ancient warnings. The patterns are clear, explained Dr. Foster, examining a wall covered with star charts. Something came from the void between galaxies and systematically destroyed every advanced civilization that existed at the time. Zethkai, the reptilian researcher from the Scaled Collective, pointed to a series of images showing space battles. Look at these depictions. The ancient defenders had weapons and ships far more advanced than anything we possess today. Yet they still lost. Dr. Price activated her communication device to contact Unity 1. Admiral Brooks, we found something important. The ancient civilization left instructions. They built hidden bases throughout the galaxy containing weapons and technology designed specifically to fight the external threat. Helen felt her blood run cold. Are you saying this threat is still out there? The evidence suggests it returns every few million years, Dr. Price replied. And based on the signal patterns we've been detecting, it may be returning soon. Back on Earth, President Martin Cross convened an emergency meeting of the Galactic Council. Representatives from 68 different species gathered in the Great Assembly Hall of New Geneva to hear the archaeological team's findings. The ancient records indicate that this external force completely destroyed galactic civilization not once, but multiple times throughout history, President Cross explained to the assembled delegates. Each time the survivors had to rebuild from nothing. Each time they were eventually found and destroyed again. Ambassador Zixtha of the Vexhai, now a close ally of humanity, clicked his mandibles nervously. What makes this time different? Why should we succeed where more advanced civilizations failed? Director Sam Johnson, who had become the coordinator of the Galactic Trade Federation, stood to address the assembly. Because this time, we're united. Previous civilizations fought as individual species. We fight as one galaxy. The truth of his words was evident in the economic transformation that had taken place. The Galactic Trade Federation had eliminated traditional barriers between species and created prosperity levels that had never existed before. Worlds that had been enemies now shared technology, resources, and knowledge freely. On the former Korth, homeworld of Caraxus, Colonel Dan Miller watched as the last of the reconstruction projects reached completion. The planet that had once been a military fortress dedicated to conquest was now a peaceful manufacturing center producing medical supplies for the entire galaxy. General Vexmore, the former Korth military leader, approached Miller with a report. Colonel, our factories have exceeded production targets by 30%. We're now producing enough medical equipment to supply emergency aid to any world in the galaxy. Your people have come a long way, Miller replied, from conquerors to healers in less than 2 years. We learned from humans that true strength comes from building, not destroying, Vexmore said. My children will grow up in a galaxy where cooperation is more valuable than conquest. Admiral Carl Morris, commanding the Deep Space Reconnaissance Force, led an expedition beyond the galactic edge in search of the ancient hidden bases that Dr. Price had discovered references to. His fleet of human and alien vessels moved through the dark spaces between stars, following coordinates that had been carved in stone millions of years ago. Admiral, sensors are detecting massive artificial structures ahead, reported his navigation officer, Lieutenant Tony Martinez. There, hidden inside what appears to be a dead star system. The ancient base that Morris's team discovered was beyond anything they had imagined. Weapon systems that could destroy entire star systems, shield generators capable of protecting whole sectors of space, and manufacturing facilities that could build fleets of warships in days instead of years. This technology is thousands of years ahead of anything we have, Morris reported to Unity 1. But according to the instruction manuals, it still wasn't enough to stop the external threat. Commander Kate Anderson, aboard the UES Eternal Vigilance, received priority communications from observation posts positioned throughout the galaxy. The news was troubling, but not unexpected. Commander, long-range sensors are detecting movement in the void between galaxies, reported Lieutenant Johnson. Something very large is approaching from the direction of the Andromeda Galaxy. Kate studied the sensor data with growing concern. The approaching objects were massive beyond description and moving faster than anything currently in the galactic database. Send word to all fleet commands. Alert status red. This is not a drill. President Cross addressed the galaxy one final time as the unified civilization prepared to face its greatest test. His words were broadcast to every world, every ship, and every settlement from the galactic core to the outer rim. Citizens of the galaxy, he began, for 2 years we have lived in peace because we learned to work together instead of fighting each other. Now we face a threat that destroyed civilizations far more advanced than ours. But we have something those previous civilizations did not have. We have unity. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Human fleets that had spent 2 years protecting trade routes and eliminating pirates began moving toward defensive positions. Alien vessels that had learned to fight alongside human forces prepared for the greatest battle in galactic history. On Unity 1, Admiral Brooks watched as the largest military force ever assembled began taking positions throughout the galaxy. Human warships formed the backbone of the defense, but they were supported by vessels from every species in known space. All fleets report ready, Captain Reynolds announced. 700,000 human vessels plus another 200,000, allied ships from 68 different species. The entire galaxy is united for the first time in history. The ancient enemy was returning from the darkness between galaxies, just as the archaeological evidence had predicted. But this time, they would not face a divided galaxy of competing species. They would face a unified civilization led by humans who had learned that true strength came not from conquest, but from the courage to protect those who could not protect themselves. Commander Anderson stood on the bridge of the Eternal, vigilant as reports came in from observation posts across the galaxy. The approaching force was larger than anything in the historical records, but so was the defensive fleet waiting to meet them. All stations report ready, she announced to her mixed crew of humans and aliens. The galaxy stands as one. In the darkness of space, the greatest fleet in galactic history waited to face the unknown threat from beyond the stars. The species that had once dismissed humanity as weak primitives now looked to human leadership for salvation. The sleeping giant had not only awakened but had become the guardian of all galactic civilization. The final battle for the survival of every living being in the galaxy was about to begin, and humanity would lead the way into the darkness. Just as they had led the way into the light of a unified galactic civilization,